today we're going to be talking about white privilege. So white privilege simplified is the advantages that other people have in different situations, in particular white people. White privilege is white people benefiting at the detriment of people of color. It's the fact that white people are more likely to have better opportunities. They are more likely to benefit in different situations because of the color of their skin over people of color. It's the fact that they might have a better job opportunity, or people are more likely to listen to them and give them the benefit of the doubt compared to people of color. Now, when talking about white privilege, some people will be like, well, it doesn't make sense because white people also have other obstacles to overcome and life is hard for everyone, whether you're black or white, which is true. But when we're talking about white privilege, we're focusing on the injustice that has been there in history over the past few years, which has gotten worse within the last few years because of the color of people's skin. It's the injustice that people of color have fallen victim to because of the color of their skin. It's the injustice, the different circumstances, the different situations that white people are less likely to find themselves because they're white, right? So yes, everyone has hardships. Everyone holds different identities in a room, which can become an obstacle. But when we're talking about white privilege, we're talking about the fact of race. We're talking about the color of people's skin. We're talking about something that has existed for so many years, all through history. So some people will be like, okay, white privilege, whatever, doesn't exist. What are you talking about? It does exist in our everyday lives. And if you don't realize the different situations where white privilege is existing, that's most probably because you're benefiting from it. White privilege is the fact that when you walk into a store in the USA, 3/4 of people in there are most likely white. White privilege is when you look at the media, you aren't easily represented, right, as a person of color. The fact that you have to find other outlets or like melanin interest to be able to find, to search things that relate to people of color specifically. The fact that the first time you Google something on the internet regarding, let's say piercings, tattoos, the first people that are going to pop up are white people rather than people of color. It's the fact that when you walk into a store, you have a whole aisle dedicated to your hair products. But when I walk into a store, I have a little section with my contour, sheer moisture, and all that lovely stuff. In fact, it's the fact that I have to go to certain stores, which are not always there, to find hair products for my general hair necessities. But as a white person, you can walk into any store, almost any store, and find the products that you need. You don't need a specific section, or you don't need to go to a specific store to find books where the main character is someone who looks like you. Children's books. You don't have to go online and order specific books to find a book where the cover, the main character is a person of color. It's the fact that when you say who you are and where you're from, you can say you're American, and no one will be like, oh really, but like where are you from? You don't have to specify that you're African American, you're Asian American, you're Caribbean American. You can just say you're American. It's the fact that you can stand outside of the store for a couple hours and no one's going to think anything of it. It's the fact that you can walk in a store and no one's going to do a double take or feel the need to monitor your movement. It's the fact that when you get pulled over by a cop, you're not thinking of 10,000 scenarios in your head. That when you get pulled over, you actually feel protected compared to scared. It's the fact that when you go for a jog, you don't need to wear bright colored clothing, right? You don't have to show, you don't have to represent yourself as not a threat to be comfortable. You can wear a hoodie without fear. You can go and protest armed, potentially dangerous, and not be arrested, not be tackled, not be tear gassed, not be brutally beaten. It's the fact that you don't have to assimilate and use a white voice to be understood by everyone else, to be accepted by people. It's the fact that you don't go through the hot comb phase, the straightener phase, the relaxer phase. We really did damage our hair to be accepted in society, guys. Yikes. It's the fact that you don't have to assimilate to be accepted in society. You never feel out of place. because of the color of your skin. And I've been aware of a lot of this in college classrooms, at restaurants, at airports. In so many public places, I am aware of the color of my skin, and I'm hyper aware of my actions because I know that everyone else is looking at me and waiting for me to do something stereotypical of a black person to justify their view on black people. And I have to be aware of that. White privilege is the fact that as a white person, you've most likely never thought of this. You've never been aware of this, and you don't have to worry about this. So tokenism. Tokenism is, I'll use examples. So you're the only woman in the office, but your office is going to use you to show that they don't discriminate according to people's sex because they have a woman in the office. It's when you're in a group, you have a group of friends and you're the only black person, but people are going to use their friendship to you as justification for their lack of racism, or that they don't see color, or that they aren't ignorant about different situations. Tokenism is when you're the only Asian in a group and people use that to justify that they aren't ignorant or that they are aware of Asian cultures because they are associating with an Asian person, because they're associating with a black person, because they're associating with a woman. So that's what tokenism is. Tokenism is when you're using someone who belongs to a minority group to justify your fairness, to justify your inclusivity, to justify that you're for equality, to justify that you're against discrimination because of that one person, to represent that, right? So you might feel special in the moment and be like, yeah, that's me. But they're not doing it for you, they're doing it for themselves, to make themselves more acceptable within society, to justify who they are and what they want to do. That's tokenism. You're being used to justify what people want to believe in. A microaggression can be an unintentional or intentional, an unconscious or conscious act of discrimination. It's often due to conditioning of a certain group of people, or constant exposure to a certain image that you begin to believe that is true for the whole group of people, right? So a microaggression can also play into ignorance, where we're talking about it being unintentional, unconscious. So like when you're using a microaggression, you don't think it's harmful, you don't think it has any effect, you think like it's something general, you know. So microaggression is clutching your bag tighter when you're walking through a group of black people because you've been conditioned to associate black people with crime. A microaggression is assuming how someone's voice is going to sound or how someone's going to speak because of the color of their skin. It's like that's where the idea of, oh, you're black but you talk white comes in. That is a microaggression. A microaggression that I get a lot is, oh, we'll just play it out. People be like, oh yeah, so where are you from? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm from Zimbabwe. They're like, whoa, Zimbabwe, that's so cool. Of course. And then they're like, but your English is really good. Did you grow up in America? No. Zimbabwe is first language. My first language. First language of many Zimbabweans is English. So my English is good because I was taught in English. I grew up speaking English. It's my first language. Not because I grew up in America, you know. That's a microaggression, which is often unintentional, unconscious because of the ignorance, because people's basis of what Africa is, what Africa looks like, is depending on the media, and the media is showing poverty, the media is showing war, the media is showing children dying of hunger, the media isn't showing like how we write Cambridge, we write ZimSec, we write all these exams, how we're learning the first year of college for United States during our last years of high school, right? But because of this unintentional bias, unintentional act of discrimination, people aren't aware of that. And that's what a microaggression is. But that was just explanations. I hope it's more clear to everyone about white privilege, tokenism, and microaggressions. I hope that you become more aware of it and you are taking the time to educate yourself and, you know, not be one of those people, you know. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. turn those notifications on for the next video. Feel free to follow me on my Instagram, which is over there. And yeah, bye.